It doesn't get any better than this, folks. The Iowa History Journal, we've talked about it on our program before. It's definitely something you want to pick up when you can. And we have Michael Swanger on with us once again, publisher and owner of the Iowa History Journal. Thank you for joining us once again. So, like everything else, we're talking politics when we're looking at the cover of this month's journal.
Kind of a hot topic, isn't it?
It is a hot topic.
Yeah. Good morning, Brent, Jackie, Jason. Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it.
You know, I tell you what, I have not only read your magazine before, I think it's a fantastic magazine. It's, folks, if you like, there you go. So there's full screen. Drawn by Brian Duffy, who you see every Thursday here on the program. But if you like history like I do, it's a great magazine. It is fascinating, insightful, and it really adds to the texture of this fine state. I want to point out real quick on the graphic you're looking at. There's George McGovern. I had the good fortune of actually Senator McGovern and I had the chance of speaking on the phone several times. He was going to be in a project I did called Chasing the Hill, and we got to talk about his participation not only in the caucus but that election in general. So, but this
fantastic
first of the nation cover story. Tell us about it seems obvious, but why did you choose the caucuses for this issue?
Well, the timing obviously was right. 4 weeks from now, everyone's going to be talking about the caucuses and what's especially as they get closer, as you know, what's going to happen. We decided to go back in 40 years and look at how it got started. So I have a stable of terrific writers across the state who contribute. One of them is Jerry Harrington in Iowa City. And Jerry wrote this cover story for us, and he did a lot of research and covered a few events that were taking place throughout the state where he could touch on some of the historical aspects of it, and obviously just how it began. And it was a bit of a mishap, an accident, if you will, as you know.
Sure. The date changed.
Exactly. It was just a function of timing.
Tell folks what you're talking about.
Well, what happened was, from my understanding, is that in 1972, the National Democrats decided they were going to have their national party on July 9th. Yeah. But the state, because of all the rules, the timing that has to take place between state and local events, pushed Iowa's back to May 9th. Well, then when they started looking at the rules, they keep going further back, 30 days, 30 days, 30 days to meet all the requirements. And before they knew it, they were at the end of January, and that's how it got started.
So, you know, Senator Tom Harkin was involved in it back then, and he and I are co-hosting a screening of our little movie Courting to One, which is about the caucuses. But I've got to ask him, because it always seemed pretty convenient to me that they could say, oh, it was just a mix-up. Oh, we're First in the Nation. Okay, we're going to stay it. But we're definitely happy they did that. Other folks you have David Yepsen used to be with the Register, is now Public Policy Institute at Southern Illinois, wrote a great piece here about the caucuses as well. And it's just fascinating. And I like that you included this as well. If you folks haven't been to the State Historical building, they just opened, what was it, a few weeks ago, last month,
right?
A display, and you can go in and see all of the amazing, there you go, there's some memorabilia right there, caucuses through the years, the tchotchkes, and it really goes in depth as well. So a great addition to your magazine, but it's over at the State Historical Building where, speaking about the caucus process, Hillary Clinton had an event there last night.
Right. And I remember you saying earlier this morning, too, about how people were out late to see Senator Cruz. Yeah. So we know the Iowans are devoted to this, and that's the reason, you know, when we got that First in the Nation status, that's one thing, but we've maintained it, and there's a reason why we maintained it. We have a great interest in it, and I think Iowans are independent thinkers and smart people, and I love the fact that in a lot of ways the process hasn't changed, that it still takes place in living rooms and community centers and places of that nature, and it's important to keep that kind of grassroots effort.
It's a very special thing we have here in Iowa, and we also want to talk about something you did with this particular edition that came out, and that's talking about Iowa history education. So talk a little bit about that.
Thank you. I'm honored to be a part of this new Iowa History Advisory Council. The Iowa Department of Education just formed it in November. There's 24 Iowans on it, and we range from museum officials and educators to school officials, and I'm one of the few members of the media that are on it. Obviously, I'm glad to be there because of what I do, but I'm also happy to be there as a parent, as a father. I have a 7th grade son, John, who, like many students across Iowa, they're not learning enough about Iowa history, if at all. And that's the reason why this council was formed, was to see if we can reverse that trend and find a way to get some Iowa education, some Iowa history education into the schools.
And there's some other, now it's not just politics. We're talking a little bit about about Hawkeye's history in this issue.
Yes, that's Wally and Jerry Hilgenberg of the Hilgenberg dynasty of Hawkeye football. There were 2 of the 6 Hilgenberg family members to play on the line at the University of Iowa. That's Wally on the left, and Jerry, his older brother, was his coach, was an assistant coach with the legendary Forrest Evashevsky at Iowa during that period in the early 60s.
And there's Terrace Hill, our governor's mansion here. We learned about who, it was Iowa's first millionaire.
Exactly.
Built that.
Yeah, Mr. Allen, B.F. Allen. And he built it, and it opened in 1869, I believe. And then years later, they sold it to the Hubble family, and obviously it's become the home of Iowa's governor for many years.
I tell you what, if you get a chance, go to the Pumpkin Ball at Terrace Hill next year. I went this year. Fantastic party.
What did you dress as?
I dressed as Abraham Lincoln vampire hunter. My girlfriend dressed as the vampire. And we walked in the door, and the governor was there dressed as Clark Griswold, so we got a great photo of the 3 of us right away. Now, this is interesting. A mercenary fighter here from Iowa.
Yeah, that's Emil Holmdahl from Fort Dodge, and he fought in the Spanish the U.S.-Spanish War in 1898, but then also became a bit of a mercenary, if you will, and fought in several wars across the world in the early 20th century. I picked that photo in particular because I know how much you guys love animals, as I do, and I love that photo of him holding his dog somewhere in South America. You don't see very many, soldiers of fortune holding their dog.
But it says here that he actually shot Emiliano Zapata.
Right. And
that's amazing.
It is amazing. And he also fought with and then against Pancho Villa as well.
Wait, with and then against? And then against,
yeah.
Soldier for hire.
It was very complex. Yes, exactly. We delve into that. So
who's this?
This is the great Ernest Speck Red with Bobby Parker on drums and Francis Bates on bass.
Okay.
In the back of every issue, Brent, what we like to do is run a couple of old photos, just standalone static photos, if you will. We call it Looking Back. Those are some great jazz legends. And then, of course, Bix Beiderbecke, another jazz legend. I'm sharing this because we just wrote a little short piece in the new issue about the new Beiderbecke Museum that's going to be built at the River Music Experience in Davenport.
Okay.
So that's going to be a nice addition to what they're doing. And finally, fans of Bix have a home to go see all the memorabilia about it.
Michael, you're talking about being a part of a group that's trying to bring more Iowa history into the school system. How do we bring it more into our lives? Is it just a matter of picking up Iowa History Journal, or how are we able to implement this more in our daily lives?
Well, obviously, I would love to say, sure, go out and buy a subscription or pick us up on the racks at Casey's or Hy-Vee. That's one way of doing it. We're the only popular magazine devoted exclusively to Iowa's history, so we feel like we have an interesting product there. That's one way to learn about it. But there are many places and ways, obviously, you can learn it. What I've noticed, especially in the last few years, is there's been an increased attention to Iowa history in the media, and I see it in other outlets too. So museums, read books, go to the library. There's enough material to last you for a lifetime.
Well,
so.
and I've talked with Ted Stevens, the GM here, about Des Moines is really, it's not only in its renaissance, it is now blooming. So I think Iowa's on the map of a lot more people now, on the coast especially. So Iowa History Journal, again, before I met you today, I have read your magazine and really enjoy it. So excellent work.
Thank you,
It's a good place to start, because a lot of times you learn the little nuggets and then you can do some further research or...
Exactly. If it whets your appetite, even better. Yeah.
Wonderful, Michael. Remind us again where we can pick this up.
We're at every Casey's and Hy-Vee in Iowa, and in Des Moines, we're also at Beaverdale Books, and you can go online to subscribe at iowahistoryjournal.com and buy our back issues, which are becoming quite collectible too. So
fantastic.
The caucuses are only 4 weeks away. You want to learn the history of what it's all about? You want to pick up this month's issue. Michael, so great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll be right back with more on Great Day here on KCWI.